Good morning, afternoon, or evening, ladies and gentlemen. Allincrypto here, and welcome back, guys, for what is going to be nothing short of another jam-packed daily market update on this smashing Sunday. I hope you've all had a wonderful weekend. What we're going to do to start things off is prepare you guys for what is going to be an interesting week. We've got the largest company earnings in the world this week, which we'll start off by looking at. Then you've got a lot of economic sort of data and things coming out. You've got the likes of the Fed rate decision set to take place on Wednesday. Also, there'll be a sort of pre or post, I should say, decision speech that comes on the back end of that. You've also got non-farm payroll and a number of other economic decisions being taken by the Bank of Canada, the Bank of Japan, so on and so forth. And on Wednesday also, when you have the Fed rate decision, you also have the White House Digital Asset Report. We're going to look at this and what this entails. And this was all on the back end of a mandate that was given to us. And it said within 180 days of the date of this order, the working group shall submit a report to the president through the APEP, which shall recommend regulatory and legislative proposals that advance the policies established in this order. In particular, the report shall focus on the following. It talks about regulatory framework, and it talks about a number of other things. We'll explore this in more detail in just a second. This is in regards to the sort of crypto executive order that was signed, and we're going to get the report there. We're also going to be looking at Tether, doing some interesting things, and then I really want to focus on the kind of phase that we're now in for the markets as we see that institutional shift towards Ethereum. We're looking at Ethereum strategies, Ethereum treasury companies forming. I think there's great opportunities in there in regards to those companies. But I think, and I've made my opinion on this very clear. I had this comment yesterday. I'm not a holder of Ethereum. I hold a very small amount, which is really leftovers from cycles. I think Ethereum is akin to Yahoo. However, it's not about what I think, and I think institutions are going to look to pump Ethereum. And through Ethereum pumping, what you're going to get is a broader reflection and uplifting of the altcoin sector generally as that spotlight lifts from Bitcoin. We're going to see Bitcoin dominance rolling, I believe. That head and shoulders is starting to form. We'll talk about that. And that's going to see alt season really flourish. And for the altcoins that we hold, like Hedera and some of the others, I think they're going to do exceptionally well under that context. You know, something monumental is going on. We will be doing videos on that later on in the week, because what you've got is, I believe, another Bretton Woods moment ahead of us, and crypto was introduced for that moment to enable it. Let's get into things, guys. I don't want to ramble on forever and go down that rabbit hole. We've got a hell of a lot of earnings coming out this week, as you can see here. Most anticipated earnings released July, or the week starting July 28, 2025. So tomorrow being that date. You can see on Monday, hell of a lot of earnings. Tuesday, we've got big companies like Visa, PayPal, so on and so forth. I think PayPal's a buy, actually, as a stock, in my opinion. It's not financial advice. I just think it's a good-looking stock, very much phase one, going in or about to come out of accumulation and into a broad uptrend. Remember, I said that. Wednesday is going to be huge with the likes of Meta, Robinhood. They listed Hedera yesterday. Very happy about that. And Microsoft. We've got many others like Hershey, Ford, Harley Davidson. Thursday, we've got Apple, we've got Amazon, we've got Roblox. That was a company that, we looked at doing well, and they have. We've got MicroStrategy, Coinbase. That's going to be interesting. They made Coinbase 400 and something % up for us. I mean, it's crazy stock in terms of how well we've done on that. We're starting to buy more stocks. Do become a patron and find out. We're doing a meeting today. I'll also go over my portfolio, which is looking extremely healthy. MasterCard and others. And then on Friday, we've got the likes of Chevron, ExxonMobil, and many others. So it's going to be a big week in regards to kind of company earnings. That could introduce some volatility to the stock market, and the cryptocurrency market is still, whether we like it or not, tethered to the stock market and markets more broadly. So if we started to get some negativity on the back end of these, you could see some headwinds for the cryptocurrency market, and vice versa. You see that positivity, it kind of permissions the crypto space, as it were. Also, in terms of economic data, we've got a lot going on. Monday, nothing. Ironic that I just said we've got a lot going on, but Wednesday's huge. We've got German GDP, we've got Eurozone GDP, we've got US ADP reports. don't really pay too much attention to that. We've got Bank of Canada rate decisions, we've got US pending home sales, we've got crude oil inventories, and we've got the US Fed rate decision. Rates expected to be left unchanged. We've got a, what would the word be? Negligent is not the word for Jerome Powell. I actually think if you compare Jerome Powell with other central banks, he's not done a bad job. Look at everything he's had to contend with. Look at where if you look at it in the context of the markets have done very well under him. With interest rates where they are, there hasn't been a catastrophic crash. There's always things that people can do better. It really winds me up when it's very easy to throw stones, isn't it? But I always say, well, could you have done a better job? And I think for most people, the answer is no. So I'm not defending Jerome Powell. But I'm just saying I don't think he's done a horrific job. Certainly compare him with like what we have here in the UK. We want to see a horrific job. Look at our gilts, our bond yields. Look at our inflation. Et cetera, et cetera. Jerome Powell certainly beat Bailey in that regards. Anyway. So he's very stubborn at the moment. We're not bringing rates down despite everything. Then we've got the Bank of Japan rate decision. Then we've got US non-farm payrolls and US ISM manufacturing PMIs. A lot of data coming out, compounded with lots of company earnings. And of course, more importantly for me, I suppose, than any of this, because we're in the crypto space, is the report that's set to be released. Now, the report, we'll pull it up on the screen here, was on the back end of the White House's mandate. Again, it says within 188 days of this order, the working group shall submit a report. The working group shall propose a federal regulatory framework governing the issuance and operation of digital assets, including stablecoins in the United States. The working group's report shall consider provisions for market structure, oversight, consumer protection, and risk management. The working group shall evaluate the potential creation and maintenance of a national digital asset stockpile and propose criteria for establishing such a stockpile, potentially derived from cryptocurrencies lawfully seized by the federal government through its law enforcement reports. The chair shall designate an executive order of the working group who shall be responsible for coordinating its day-by-day functions on issues affecting the national securities or the nation's security. The working group shall consult with the National Security Council as appropriate and consistent with law. The working group shall hold public hearings and receive individual expertise from leaders in the digital asset space. That report is coming out on Monday. I'm going to play you the clip now of CNBC reporting on this. It's coming out, on Wednesday. I'm going to play you the report of CNBC reporting on this.
Crypto policy report on Wednesday. According to the administration's crypto task force, that report will be a set of recommendations around potential regulation ahead, including the feasibility of a strategic national stockpile. So
we'll see what comes out. I've got more of a bullish than a bearish slant on that. We'll see. The stockpile, are you going to see the US government buy Bitcoin on the open market? I don't know. Are they going to buy altcoins on the open market? I don't know. We shall see. But I think this could be a very bullish thing generally for the space. What I want to do now before we dive over to the markets and we sort of look at where we are, what stage we're at, and I think we're seeing that stage signaled by institutions pivoting towards Ethereum, whether that be their signaling, whether it be kind of Bitcoin companies selling all their Bitcoin and going into Ethereum, whether it be Tom Lee setting up essentially ETH strategy. I wouldn't be surprised if they change the name to it. I'm going to really look into this with Patrons later because there's opportunities out of it, including actually in cryptos that hold a lot of Ethereum that we've been looking at for a while, and we've been scratching our heads going, why are they going to do so well? And now I think we've got the answer. The beauty of technical analysis. I think that we're kind of in this next sort of altcoins phase. Before we get into that, Tether has been... I have been against many of the other kind of commentators on the space in regards to my belief that Tether is as solid as a rock, and that it's not going anywhere, and that it's going to serve a purpose. The US is not likely to damage it, nor other nations, due to its purchasing of US treasuries. It is the most profitable company per employee that has ever existed. USDT serves a role to propagate dollar dominance more broadly, perhaps outside of the US and the likes of MiCA regulations. We know they run into issues there. However, they have now announced a US domestic stablecoin, and we're going to look at that announcement. I think this cements Tether as a company, but more broadly, the coin USDT, which just continues to grow and excel. And in my opinion, really isn't going anywhere. I certainly don't think it's going to be a black swan. So let's dive into this.
We are going to announce very soon our new initiative for a US domestic stablecoin that will compete in the US domestic market. So I'm very excited about that. I think will be a very highly efficient new offering for US institutions.
Very interesting. Tether's now looking to create a kind of specific coin for the US. We'll see how that all goes. What we've been highlighting all week is really the phase that we're now in. And that really, in my opinion, is phase 2. And, we're going to see alt season really take place. Ethereum, and we've said it's literally about to do a similar thing to what Bitcoin is going to, or has previously done. One of the only people that sort of highlighted this. I have pretty insane price predictions for some of the ETH strategies that I'm getting right now, based technically. That gives us a confidence Ethereum's going to do well, but more broadly, the sector as a whole, the space as a whole. This was Bitcoin, and then of course we all know the journey that Bitcoin went on post that. It went on this kind of run here. Ethereum's on a similar trajectory. There's also potentially technical patterns. I might just do an Ethereum specific video on that give me, over 15k Ethereum, and we're seeing institutions move towards it. We saw last week in terms of CoinShare. It's going to be interesting to see what the report says, and we'll cover that tomorrow. We saw actually institutions move towards Ethereum. They had about equal flows, which was very interesting, very telling. Bitcoin and Ethereum. I think also we're looking at this kind of dominance scenario, where dominance for me is it's basically what we would look at as phase 3. Markets move in phases. We're one of the few people that teach this. We're now seeing other people start to highlight it. But this could be a kind of head and shoulders atop that results in the end of Bitcoin dominance and a real alt season kicking off. And I think we're seeing that perhaps with some of the movements that we're seeing in the cryptocurrency space. So, busy week ahead. Hang in there, guys. You're rich. You just don't know it yet. There is such a thing as pre-rich. There's a great meme on that. And on that note, I'm going to love and leave you. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Don't forget to become a subscriber. I'll see you all in tomorrow's daily market update.